Hi, my name is John, and with my co-host Andy, you're listening to Packers Blitz podcast, the podcast for the fans done by two fans who survived the dark times of the 80s of Packers football and live to talk about it. And this podcast, as always, is dedicated to the greatest fans of all, Packer fans. So let's get right to it. Super Bowl. I'm just gonna give my 2 cents. Andy, you have a great well, you have a lot to say and it's great. So I'm gonna let, before I get off my high horse here, I'll have you go here in just a couple minutes. But so let me just give you a really quick analogy of what I thought with the Super Bowl. So I thought it was a really good game. And Andy and I were just talking about this. We thought that Jalen Hurts was still hurt in his shoulder. Didn't seem to make some throws that he normally does. I think the Eagles, obviously, coming out at halftime, did not make adjustments. Packer fans, we are very familiar with that. And Andy Reid, he did make adjustments, and boy, did he make adjustments. And it was a really gritty, gutty performance by Patrick Mahomes, which I respect the guy. He's out there, he's playing, he's a heck of a player. I'm sure the Chicago Bears fans out there go, why didn't we draft him? But anyway, I think it was a really good game. I didn't like, and we'll talk about this in a little bit here, I didn't like the penalty at the end. I think that's Bush League. You gotta let him play through it. Even though the Philadelphia cornerback said, yeah, I grabbed him. Yeah, okay. There's no way he's catching that ball. I mean, that's my opinion. Anyway, even if you don't grab him. So again, I think the NFL has issues with its officiating, even though Roger Goodell, of course, what is he going to say? Oh, I love the officiating. Came out and said the officiating is, great. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, you're getting paid millions of dollars to say that. So all in all, it's a really good game. But I want to get to Andy because Andy has some great stuff. So Andy, take it away.
Thanks, John. And hello again, football fans out there. Yeah, so John, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Here are my quick thoughts and synopsis on yesterday's big game. If I can actually say synopsis. Still having problems. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, the big game. So I wanted to say sorry in advance, Packer fans and football-loving fans out there, on my lack of quickness, because I'm probably going to talk a little bit too much about the game. So before I start, after I get done saying what I'm about to say, John, John may say, that's it. This is the last Packers Blitz episode.
No. Uh-oh.
So, okay, here we go. So I wrote my notes on the Super Bowl in mid-morning, about 9 o'clock to about, I don't know, maybe noon. I listened to Colin Cowherd's show in the late... I listened to his show in the late afternoon, and I just want to say that he must have stolen my thoughts right out of my brain.
Uh-oh.
He literally said some things that were word for word. I guess because Colin and I share the same birthday. We do.
Oh, no, buddy. I feel sorry for
we're
you.
both Capricorns.
Oh, man.
And are almost the same age. That great minds think alike.
Hang on, Andy. You're the great mind. He does not have a great mind. You have a great mind, my friend. Not him.
Yeah, that's why I promised that will be the last time I repeat that. But I figured I'd get a reaction from you on that one. Yeah, we do have the same birthday, by the way. That was on a previous episode. I was going to bring that up, but I forgot to. So just to let you know.
No.
So John, during this Super Bowl 57 review, feel free to chime in whenever you would like. So basically, it was the Chiefs against the Eagles. The Chiefs win. They won by a final score of 38-35. I should have taken the over on the points. We both did not, John, and I should have picked the Chiefs, which of course we both did not.
The Eagles.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so according to the Associated Press, and this just came up on my phone a few minutes ago, this was the third most watched television show in history with an estimated 113 million viewers. And that's like Jen and I had talked about a few minutes ago, actually, before we came on. That's kind of the reason we're talking about the Super Bowl, because it's kind of a big thing. So quick overall thoughts on the game. First thing, number one, I thought that Super Bowl 57 was like a prize fighting match with two competitors boxing and slugging it out.
Yep.
More specifically, I remember George Foreman fighting Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Roberto Duran.
Roberto Duran,
just duking it out and beating on one another. It was fun. It was a fun, exciting, and well-played game. There were plenty of outstanding plays from both teams in all three phases. The second thing, I think that the key was that KC had been there before. I think that KC's experience played a crucial part in them winning the game. You might be right. KC was able to take control of the game after halftime and made the necessary game plan changes to win. And that's kind of what you mentioned before, John. And you're absolutely right.
And just really quickly, Packer fans, I know you're at a great train of thought, Andy, but just really quick, what is the biggest thing, Andy, that we have complained on this podcast about LaFleur? He cannot do what after halftime?
Make the necessary adjustments and changes to the game plan to be able to win the ball game. He's very good at the beginning of games where he scripted out those plays, but after halftime, for some reason, they can't make adjustments. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Is that what you're okay?
100% right.
Okay. And so, and again, all this leads into my final thought, the third and last thing that I just wanted to, just a thought on the game was Andy Reid's a genius, an offensive genius, and Patrick Mahomes, even though he was hobbled, he showed a lot of grit and determination and willed the Chiefs to victory. So that was my third thought on that. And then I did want to talk, John, a little bit about just give a quick analysis as quickly as I can possibly do it, which just typically isn't very quick. So there were 5 things of importance I thought that happened. The first thing, it was funny that at halftime I said to myself, KC has to get the ball into Isaiah Pacheco's hands and give him the rock. That's exactly what Andy Reid did. Pacheco only had 28 yards rushing at halftime. He ended up with 76 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He had some really, really big runs, a lot of energy coming from that guy. Then the second thing of importance is Patrick Mahomes, period. He continuously made plays when he had to. For example, during that last drive when he ran for the 26 yards to the 17-yard line and got his team into field goal range to eventually win the game. The third thing is there are 2 crucial plays, I thought, that really changed the outcome of the Super Bowl. Nick Bolton's 36-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown in the second quarter. And we had talked about Nick Bolton on a previous podcast. And boy, did he come through with he was a tackling machine. 180 tackles on the season, John.
That's insane.
Yep. And he played great and made a play. And Kadarius Toney's 65-yard punt return in the fourth quarter to the 5-yard line.
That was weird.
That set up a pretty quick KC touchdown. And they were able to go ahead with that score. Eventually, Philadelphia came back, tied the game, got a 2-point conversion, whatever. But that was, a couple easy touchdowns that they had. The fourth thing, especially in the second half, I thought that Kansas City's offensive line totally outplayed Philly's defensive line. The vaunted Eagles front 7 had 0 sacks and got run on. KC scored on every single possession in the second half, every single one.
Yes.
If Philly's D just gets one stop, just one,
right?
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl 57 champions. Of course, that did not happen.
No, it didn't.
And then, so we all know the outcome of the game. Even though the Eagles were ahead by 10 points at halftime, 24-14, the Chiefs became Super Bowl 57 champions by the final score, again, of 38-35, by making, John, which we had talked about, the necessary adjustments at halftime.
There you go.
Imposing their will in the second half and fighting back like a prize fighter in a championship.
Little rope-a-dope.
So I'll admit it, John. We both whiffed on our prediction for the game. But so did every single analyst on Fox who picked the Eagles, by the way. Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, Michael Strahan, Jimmy Johnson, Sean Payton, and Rob Gronkowski.
Although he's a moron.
Yeah, so no kidding.
Rob. Whatever.
Just spelled Gronk's name there. I think that all of us experts overlook the importance of Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and experience. By the way, that pass interference penalty really sucked.
Yeah.
So I will say that.
So let me bring that up. Let me bring 2 points quickly up here. One, so one of the things that as football fans, we get enamored with the like shiny special like team, which the Eagles, but one thing we forgot, Andy, was they faced, first of all, nobody like Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Second, when were they challenged at all? When did somebody ever really challenge the Eagles? Right? Not really. And Kansas City just came after that hard-fought game against the Bengals. By the way, Cincinnati fans, if you're listening, I thought you should have been in the Super Bowl. You got hosed by a couple calls. And that leads me to my next point is you were playing the entire game calling, hey, there's offsides, illegal motion, there's a holding here. And then the final 2 minutes of the game, you call a hold. Yes, I agree it's a hold, but every game you watch is holding. And he's not going to catch that ball. And Kansas City fans, you can argue with me all you like. He is not catching that ball, the receiver. I think it was Juju Schuster. He's not catching that ball, okay? And this is what, with the refs, again, like I said, Roger Goodell, officiating has never been better. Yeah, you're full of what. Here it is. If you're going to call the game, okay? And start calling that early so the other team goes, oh, I can't hold. Might cost us, right? And Packer fans, we'll talk about this later. But if you remember, Andy, in the 2020 NFC Championship game, remember the Allen Lazard hold on 3rd and I think 6th? I don't know if you remember that at all. If you don't, go on YouTube. There's plenty of time, to look at it after football season, and you can see it is a blatant hold. I mean, you can't miss it. And guess what? The ref missed it. And then later on in the game, another blatant hold by Kevin King to one of the Tampa Bay Buccaneer receivers, and they call it. So I just don't get this. They should have never made that call. They should have let it go, even though the Philadelphia, like I said, corner, he admitted, I held, I grabbed his jersey. Good for him. He's accountable, which I love that, because you made a mistake. It's okay. Be accountable for it. So anyway, and yes, Andy and I got suckered into the Eagles have an offensive line. The Kansas City, kind of an offensive line. And then the Eagles have a defensive line. So we got kind of caught up in that. And what we didn't realize was Andy Reid's a genius and Patrick Mahomes is one hell of a tough guy. So that's really it about that. And, what else would you like to bring up? Oh, the turf. So I'll let you talk about the turf, Andy.
Yeah, I did want to mention that Patrick Mahomes is it's just all-time talent, period. So we'll just
he's a
leave it
tough
at
guy.
that. So when you got those two guys, good things are going to happen. So the turf, I did want to mention that it was an issue all game and all year. The NFL knew about this. I believe that the Kansas City kicker Harrison Butker got hurt on that field earlier in the year. And so the NFL should have done something to correct that issue. And players were at risk. So I hope the next time that Arizona hosts the Super Bowl, which they've done that a few times, since I think it's been 2006 when that particular stadium opened. I hope the heck they have a new field. The thing that you don't know, John, that we didn't really talk about before the show, but you're about to know, is the inaugural season of that stadium. I was there. I went to a football game.
Oh, nice.
And the thing that interested me about it was I was just paying attention. I just taken in the new stadium, everything, the atmosphere, everything that was going on. It's a great venue. It has a retractable roof, but it also has a retractable field.
Yeah, that's cool.
So the thing I noticed, the field goes on, the field actually gets rolled up and taken off to the side and then brought out and rolled back out. And I actually watched the field. I stayed there a little bit after the game, was watching them roll the field off because I believe they had a concert or something else that was going on at that venue. So my point is, why can't the NFL and why can't the Cardinals, do something about that? Because the field itself could be replaced.
Too many slipping. Too many players slipping in that.
Yeah, there were actually people at halftime, John, and they made a big to-do about it. They were going out there and picking up chunks of the field. So I just think there needs to be it needs to be better than that. So I figured I'd bring it up, but it's really cool to watch, and the retractable field's kind of cool, but also you have to have a field that's safe for the players to play on. That's supposed to be something that the NFL is supposed to be about, player safety. Yeah. And I don't want to say well, as in Wisconsin, people like to say, well, maybe all over the United States, they screwed the pooch on that one. So,
they definitely did.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have said that, but I couldn't
no, that's
think
good.
anything
No,
else.
We're still PG.
Okay. So, yeah, anything else, John? Anything else you want to add on that?
Not really. I think here's the thing. I think the biggest thing about the NFL is let's make sure the officiating that we have the best of the best. I believe for refs, they go through a process and they're graded, and at the end of the year, the best refs go, or the best whatever officiating crew goes and does the Super Bowl. However, I think in the off season, you have to look at full-time officiating as a real thing, number one. And number two is if you're going to have a field, one of the things you should do is have the players come out, run a scrimmage, run something, before the game, and then go, hey, this field sucks. Because they've done that before at some of the older stadiums where they went out. And I remember a long time ago when Philly had the vet, that piece of junk stadium. And even Eagles fan would agree with me, that was a terrible stadium. That was the stadium where they beat up Santa Claus, and they had a jail on premises because people would be arrested literally every game. So, and I think it was the head coach of Baltimore back in the day came out and he looked at the field and he goes, "There's no way we're playing. We are not playing on this field. Forget it." And so they called the NFL and they went out and they looked at it and they were like, "Oh boy, okay, I see what you're saying. We're not playing." And you can't do that in the Super Bowl, but what you could do is, like you said, there has to be they have 2-3 different fields where they can be like, okay, let's try this one out. Because it's the Super Bowl. You can't have guys running around, falling down and looking like they're on ice skates because it gives a bad image. And even the Eagles came out and said that field was horrible. Of course, the Chiefs didn't say anything, but I'm sure somebody would say something. So that was really my other thought. Good Super Bowl. Hopefully next year at this time the Packers will be in it, but we'll see.
Yeah, just one more quick thing. Well, actually a couple things. So that field is basically, it's kind of like a tarp in baseball where they bring it out and they roll it out. It only takes maybe 45 minutes to about an hour to do it. And so, you would just think they would have a better plan, a backup plan with that. If they knew the field was bad, they should have did something, especially right. And then the second thing on the refs, I just want to say, and people talk about this all the time. You don't want them to dictate the outcome of the game. You don't want them to ruin the end of the game. And this is the game. It's the Super Bowl. And that's the worst game you could possibly have to be doing that in. So I just wanted to mention that. And you are spot on. I just figured I had to get it off my chest before we moved on. To Packers news and notes, which you have some really good things to talk about.
Yeah. So okay, Packers news and notes. All right, Brett Favre fans, come with me. And I'm a Rodgers guy over Favre, and now Favre, he must be getting the worst advice ever because he is suing two ex NFL players and current media personalities. Shannon Sharp, yes, that's Shannon Sharp, the brother of Sterling Sharp. Oh, by the way, Sterling Sharp made your career, Brett Favre. Just saying. And Pat McAfee, I watch his show all the time. He has a great guest. He can be a little bit out there sometimes, but he's still a cool guy. As well as a Mississippi auditor, Chad White. So what is this about? If you guys say, I don't follow the news, I don't want to hear about this stuff, Brett Favre's my boy. He's suing because of defamatory allegations made over his involvement in a $77 million welfare fraud scheme. Excuse me. And this is crazy. So if you don't know about it, just read the article. I'm not going to get too deep into it. Basically, what he did was he went to Mississippi governor and he said, hey, my daughter needs a new volleyball facility at Southern Miss, where he's from. And they were like, sure, yeah, we'll figure something out. And they were like, well, how are we going to pay for it? Because he wants this grand facility. By the way, Brett has plenty of money to foot the bill on that one. So come on, Brett. And so what he did was he basically manipulated the system. And then he had quotes out there that he sent text saying, I don't want the media to find out about this. He had all this paperwork tied to it. And I'm like, yeah, but you're stealing from welfare. People in Mississippi are some of the poorest people in the nation. I mean, Brett, come on, man. So I know that Brett Favre has had his troubles. And even though Favre admitted to, and remember this, people, he admitted he went to the Vikings to stick it to the Packers. And I'm thinking to myself, Andy, and Packer fans, for what? What was your point to do that when we, as Packer fans and Packer Nation, built you up from this, good old country boy, to a god, a football god that is still looked at today as a football god? And just really quickly, Andy, I want to tell you a funny story. So years ago, I was fishing up north, just with some family, and I go into a bar, and at the bar they had a picture of Brett Favre, and right next to it a picture of Jesus. And I looked at it, and I said, Jesus, Brett Favre, interesting that you put them on the same playing field. I just thought, but that's to me again where Brett Favre is. And I hope these allegations are not true because I do love Brett Favre. But, oh man, I don't know. It just drives me crazy. So let me get on to the next thing. And Andy has a good one with this because Rodgers is my guy. And I want to say, I love this. Andy, not so much, but he'll get into his thing. So Rodgers is going on, or he's already on, a 4-day isolation retreat. So people, if you don't know what this is, it's like you go into a room completely dark, they lock you in there, and you just have you and your thoughts, and just kind of cleanses the mind and the body. Okay, so that's fine, which I know a lot of you Packer fans think that Rodgers is like a hippie, like he's just out there, man. But personally, I love it because Andy, I know you can have a good point about this, but we will never, ever, and I repeat, ever have another quarterback like Aaron Rodgers again. As far as not only talent, but the different ways he looks at the world. And personally, I love it because he's, like I said, he's not far with a good old shucks, and I'm out there playing football, and it's going to be great, and I'm beating people up, and we're fighting, and it's country boys and pickup trucks and, you know, shotguns and dogs and apple pie. Where Aaron Rodgers goes, I'm going to get with my inner self, and I'm going to figure out, should I retire? Should I return? And I love it. I mean, it's just so cool. He's just so cool to me. Now, Andy, remember, Rodgers is my guy. So first, let's start with Favre. What do you think about Favre? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I really wasn't going to talk about the pettiness that he had, you know, with the Vike Queens.
Yeah.
But that is very true, John, and that was a motivation for him.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. That's petty. I would actually say quite wrong of him to do. There are some points. This is probably for another podcast, but there are some points. I mean, he did know the division really well. He was playing in a dome. They had a pretty good team at the time with a pretty good offensive line. There's excuses, but that pettiness, I agree with you 100% on that particular point. I do understand why some reasons that he did it, but if one of the reasons was that he wanted to stick it to the Packers,
he did.
Then
he admitted it.
Yeah, then you know, it's probably one of those moments that some Packer fans would probably say something to him with regards to you know, something not nice back.
Okay.
Yeah, and I won't say it, but as far as the lawsuit goes, I don't care. I don't care about our societies. Don't care. I don't care about our society's penchant or our society's tendency to sue our fellow man or woman.
It's a joke,
I definitely won't care until this truly gives the Packers franchise a black eye, so to speak. So if it does, then I would say then it's going to be a bad thing. But that's all I want to say on that. But I really don't care about the lawsuit at all.
The Rodgers things, you love it.
I hate it. Yeah, I hate that the public even knows that he's going on a retreat. I hate this with every fiber of my being. It makes me want to go into isolation away from Aaron Rodgers and the football media. Let me put it this way. I would rather take a photo of myself like Tom Brady did earlier this week.
Oh, Andy.
You all know what I'm referring to.
Wear some clean underwear.
I hate Tom Brady. I'm starting to hate Aaron Rodgers.
No, dude, stop.
And I'm starting really to dislike the media's coverage of these two absolute prima donnas.
I'll give you that.
And I'm not referring to the chief female singers in an opera company. So, you know, that's just my thoughts on that.
Look,
I had to bring up the prima donna part.
I want this really quick. I want this, Andy. You I'm going to make a bet with you, and everybody can hear this. I'm going to make a bet. We'll make a steak dinner bet that one of these days you'll turn to me and go, boy, I kind of miss Aaron Rodgers and his goofiness because we're never, ever going to have this again. You think Jordan Love's going to go, if he's our quarterback, if, that's a big if, you think he's going to do any of these wacky things? No, the guy sounds like he's just going to be like, okay, I'm here. And you're like, all right, well, play football. Okay. He's like, I'm trying to think that one quarterback. Oh, Steve Young. So like Steve Young, you never heard anything about Steve Young or like Dan Marino, right? Those guys were just like, yeah, okay. Just playing football and I'm really good at it. And now I'm going home and I'll see you tomorrow. So anyway, but I love it, man. We'll have a fun time to see what Aaron Rodgers' decision was and how he came to it. So what other Packer news do you have?
Yeah, well, before I go into the one little thing that I had in Packers news, I would say that Jordan Love probably would play some video games with his wide receivers. Is that like on, what do they call that, Twitch or whatever it is?
Twitch. Yeah, it's okay.
Twitch. I would say Jordan Love probably would do that. Probably take the time to bond.
He's only 25.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to, John. I just figured I'd add that part. So, so the only news I have last Thursday, according to the website on3.com, and Steve Samra, I believe his name is.
Okay.
He said the Green Bay Packers have poached Greg Williams, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals, to join Matt LaFleur's staff. Sure. I just like the word poached in that quote, so I figured I'd mention it.
Instead of saying steal?
Yeah, poached. Greg Williams was the Cardinals cornerbacks coach last season.
I like Greg.
He will be the Packers' new passing game coordinator / cornerbacks coach, replacing Jerry Gray, who left for Atlanta last week. John and I talked about that departure in episode 13. It's possible Williams will coach only cornerbacks next season. The Packers already have Ryan Downard on staff to coach the safeties, which I did not realize. I just thought he'd be coaching all the defensive backs.
Okay.
So I did want to say, welcome, Greg Williams.
Welcome, Greg Williams.
And hopefully someday soon, goodbye, Joe Barry.
Never going to happen, my friend.
So John, another headline in the form of a question from Troy. I'm going to mispronounce this. Aslan with Zone Coverage. His title of his article was, "How bad does a Packers coach have to be to get fired?" I loved it. And then later in his article, Troy said that the answer is pretty bad.
Oh my God, this Joe Barry thing is
I just figured I'd mention that because I just started laughing when it popped up on my phone. I read the article. I mean, I could go into great lengths of all the reasons. And I mean, we hate to get anybody fired or say somebody should be fired. But man, John, we've talked about this in great lengths. So how bad does a Packers coach have to be to get fired?
Yeah, we already talked this. We already talked this about in a past podcast. You want to go and look about our Joe Barry thing. Now, here's the thing. Oh my God, I just want to bring this up really quick. Brian Flores is the Vikings' new defensive coordinator. Okay, so if you don't know who Brian Flores is, he was a heck of a coach at Miami, had one of the best defenses in Miami, and then he was like an assistant linebacker coach at Pittsburgh, who turned that Pittsburgh defense, even when they were missing guys like TJ Watt and a couple other starters, into still a really formidable defense. I'm like, are you kidding me? He was out there. Why didn't you bring him in? And anyway.
He's a great defensive coach. He's a great defensive mind, John.
He is a great.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, I forgot Gosh, I'm glad you brought that up because that was one thing that I wanted to bring up. Yeah, because that helps the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Donato was a joke.
Right. Yep.
Anyway, all
Former
right.
Packers defensive coordinator also.
Here we go again. We get second place when everyone else is getting first place. Anyway, so let's get on to our topic of the week. So one of the things that people have been putting together lately and I just want to say something. Reason Packers Blitz podcast, Andy and I decided not to get into the whole off-season will he, won't he, Aaron Rodgers stuff is just because one, it's silly. And frankly, there's a million. Every time I open my phone, there's another article about it. So it's just like it's sad. It's too much saturation, and frankly, I don't care because Aaron Rodgers is his own guy. I hope he comes back because I love the guy. But if he doesn't, hey, more power to him. I wish him the best. And if he retires, hey, again, more power to him. But here's the thing. Do you remember, Andy? I'm taking you back to Super Bowl 45 against the Steelers. Remember that game, Andy?
I sure do.
Great game, right? It was glorious, and it was such a great game, and it was such a great battle, and one of the best Super Bowls ever. And after that, I remember Andy and I kind of talking, oh man, this is going to be awesome. We're going to have a dynasty. Woohoo. And well, obviously, Packer fans, that did not happen. And there was a Sports Illustrated article out there because February 6th last week was the anniversary of Super Bowl 45 and the Packers. And they had this great article, gave me a great idea about the Packers dynasty that never happened. And I thought about that and I went, oh, they're right. Because if you remember, we went 15-1 with an average defense, which, oh, by the way, kind of reminds me of Kansas City's defense. Not very good, gave up a lot of points, but our offense was this juggernaut. Remember, Andy, in 2011, I think we scored like 30 some points a game averaged. I mean, we were just unstoppable. And so when we went and played the Giants in the divisional game at Lambeau, such a heartbreaker, just terrible game. So what I wanted to do, I don't like to put the blame on people, but we are, because it makes us feel better as Packer fans, right? To say, well, how did this not work out? So I love Ted Thompson. He was people. You don't understand. He was, as we know, trust in Ted, and Ted we trust. But he's partly to blame. And I don't want to speak ill because he's gone. Rest in peace, Ted Thompson. And he did have some great drafts. Gave us Aaron Rodgers, lest we forget. Nick Collins, by far, is a Hall of Fame safety if he would have stayed healthy. You can't argue with me at all. Any fans out there, he was the best safety and probably will next to Leroy Butler. I think he was better than Leroy Butler. I know, scandalous, that we ever had. We had Clay Matthews. Woo! Boy, could that guy can make his plays when he was young. I mean, he was TJ Watt, JJ Watt, in my opinion, at that level. BJ Raji, remember the NFC Championship game? I'll never forget this. This is my memory of it. So it was a close game, and I was at Andy's house. We're watching the game together, and it's, Andy and I are all nervous, and we're getting upset. Come on, we got to put these guys away. The Bears suck. And I go to the bathroom, and I hear Andy and his son, I believe it was Nolan. I think it was your son, Nolan. Could have been Zach, just screaming and yelling. By the way, hi, Zach. Screaming and yelling. And I'm going to the bathroom, and I'm trying to zip up really fast because I'm like, and I run out, and I see BJ Raji carrying the football and running in. And I'm like, what what just happened? And they show the replay. Unbelievable for a guy that size. Jordy Nelson, one of my favorite receivers. By the way, should have won the MVP in Super Bowl 45, but he dropped 3 passes. Come on, Jordy. Greg Jennings, okay. Still one of my favorites. Josh Sitton, excellent. TJ Lang, excellent. Don't forget Devontae Adams. So also, he brought in Charles Woodson and Julius Peppers, 2 of the most magnificent players ever. And we've talked about Charles Woodson. Andy loves Charles Woodson, that we talked about, in previous podcasts. But he never could stay on top of the draft. And in his later years, he just fell off, wasn't consistent. So my next one really quick is coaching. So McCarthy was a good coach, but like we talked about, very simple, could not make the adjustments when he needed to make them. And LaFleur, here we go again, back in a time loop, right back to where we started. And if you guys remember Mike Sherman, he never had a chance. So it didn't even really count him. Okay, hard to swallow and hard to understand and hard to believe, but 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and we've only played in 3 Super Bowls? I know Super Bowls are hard to get, but come on, man. Again, we're stuck in this time loop again. We have Rodgers and Favre, and Rodgers is doing his, I'm going off to a retreat, and maybe, I don't know, yeah. And Rodgers, I don't think I'm going to play. I mean, Favre, well, I don't think I'm going to play. Well, I'll play. And also, both near the end of their career, and Rodgers is probably still going to play, hopefully here, but they just made the mistakes. We can go to each one, which we're not going to go into unless Andy wants to go into it later on his rant. And it just 2007. What are we doing? Is it wide open guys and we're throwing to the cover? Donald Driver is covered. And then 2014. Oh, I know, which I will get into. Right, so we just couldn't get past with those 2 amazing, talented quarterbacks. All right, people, I know you're going to say, John, that's weak, but bad luck. Come on, no, you got to go with me on this one. Packer fan, football fan. Can anyone tell me in the 2014 NFC Championship there was nothing but bad luck? Are you kidding me? And Andy and I remember Andy saying to me, and if you could talk about this in your, and Andy, where you said to me after the game, he goes, as soon as they missed that onside kick, I'm like, here we go. We're going to lose this game. And I was like, I'm like, kind of and then 2007 and 2011 against the Giants, man, what are we doing? Just fumbles and unbelievable. And then 2009 and 2015, if you remember, 2015 was the 2 Hail Marys that kept us in the game. 2 Hail Marys had to keep us in the game. And then that stupid Larry Fitzgerald, he's a great player, I'm just kidding, gets this shovel pass and runs in, and our defense is like, why does Larry Fitzgerald have the ball? And then 2009, that was rigged. NFL's rigged because there was 2 penalties, and we know it, Packer fans. 2016 against the Falcons, everybody was hurt. If you guys remember, Packer fans, the offensive line was so banged up, they had to use people from the defensive line to play on the offensive line. And then, the worst, and not the worst, 2014 is the worst, 2020 against the Buccaneers. And I'm just like, what is going on? We intercepted 3 times that Tom Brady, and we just could not get to where we needed to go. And then 2021 against the 49ers, or anytime we play against the 49ers, it's just, what are we doing? Like, we Colin Capper, whatever his name is still freaking running. We can't, the running backs are running all over the place on us. They're blocking kicks. It's unbelievable. Like, most of Shanahan's wins are from us in the playoffs. If you look at his playoff record, it should be like 2-8 or something like that. but most of his wins are against us. And then I'll give you honorable mentions. Aaron Jones, we love you. But man, that hit last night to the running back of the Chiefs, I'm not sure which one it was, and he gets leveled and he holds onto the ball. And I'm like, huh? Aaron Jones has been leveled twice in 2020. And then in the Detroit game, he was leveled. And both times he fumbled the ball. Did not cost us the game, but come on, man. Hold on to the football. And then special teams. Oh, boy. We just haven't done anything, but with Rich Bisaccia, who's coming back, by the way, if you haven't heard, he'll be back with the Packers at least for one more year. And I'm hoping he'll have some type of understudy that can take over when he leaves, because he's going to get a head coaching job, no doubt in my mind. So whether it's, like I said, super hard to have a dynasty with the league parity, free agency, lack of getting the top talent, salary cap, injuries to key players, I know people are bringing up dynasties now with the Chiefs and everything, but the Packers by far had some great players and good coaches, and we couldn't make a dynasty out of it. And I just don't see it anytime soon for any teams. I will give the Chiefs and the Bengals. I think the Bengals more. I really like Joe Burrow. I think he's the next Mahomes and will exceed him. That's my personal opinion. And Andy, that was a lot. So what are your thoughts on that? Where do you stand on all the things I said there? What do you think?
Yeah, that was totally awesome, John. I 100% agree with you on all 5 points that you brought up, and I won't go back through them. But yeah, I agree with you. I think I will say the one thing I don't agree with you on, and you just brought it up, was Burrow becoming better than Mahomes. I
don't know, man.
Don't
He's
think that's going to
player.
happen.
Really?
Yeah, he had beaten Mahomes 3 times in a row.
He's 3-1 against
the
Mahomes.
Yeah, so I will give him that, but I still think Mahomes is a better player than Joe Burrow.
Okay.
But Joe Burrow, I would say he's probably in the top 5 for sure NFL quarterbacks. Maybe even in the top 2, but I would put Mahomes above him a notch. So, but that's just. Yeah,
sure.
So just
Agree
figured
to disagree.
But awesome job. I'm glad everything that you brought up would have been things that I would have brought up anyway. The only thing I can add, and this would be number 6, the Packers organization should have followed the Eagles and the Chiefs blueprint for success a long time ago.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm getting at right here. So even though the Packers have had one of the top offenses for a while, now that I think that the Packers' philosophy needed to change over a decade ago. So number 1, don't always rely on Aaron Rodgers' talent to win ball games and bail you out.
Exactly.
Second thing, the offense needs players with a killer instinct, bigger players, stronger players.
Yep, Charles
Woodson. Absolute maulers.
Yep, Charles Woodson.
For the past decade, the Packers' offensive line has been built to be athletic, be finesse, play multiple positions, and be better at pass blocking than run blocking. So I'm saying our offensive line needs to be better, needs to be bigger, stronger, more athletic, even more athletic, absolute beasts.
Yep.
Undertaker. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, sorry.
WWE.
Yeah.
Yokozuna.
So they need this. That this needs to change. So Packers fans, remember the Packers' inability to convert on short, third, and fourth down conversions, and that is totally unacceptable with the running backs we've had. So our offensive line needs to change. They have been drafting, I don't believe, the right offensive line players, especially. And I will, I just believe strongly that needs to change. And then I totally agree with you, John, on this. The Packers' talent on offense has not been good enough.
No.
You have Rodgers. Why can't you get him some playmakers and more transcendent talent to match his own? And so in that Super Bowl 45, we had a plethora, a copious amount of talent on offense.
Yes, we did.
And we need that again. So they need to get back to that.
Just
and then
really
the thing
quick,
is,
Andy, just
they
really
need
quick,
to start
Andy.
drafting some of these
we didn't
players
have
higher.
Jermichael Finley. Remember? Jermichael Finley was hurt. If we would have had him too, imagine. Woof, that would have been tough.
So now moving on from offensive philosophy, that needs to change. Great coaching is important. Just look at the Super Bowl winning teams of the past few years. KC, LA Rams, Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah.
All these teams have had great coaches, coaching staffs in all three phases, and coaching trees.
Sure.
Who has been hired away? Who has been hired away lately from the Green Bay Packers staff to become a head coach and has been successful?
Yeah, successful. That's the key. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You're correct, Packers fans, if you said no one.
No one.
Nobody. And then the front office is crucial. Yes. All three Super Bowl winning teams had an awesome general manager, personnel department, and scouting department. Most importantly, the staff at the top took big swings, signed free agents to win now, and drafted to not to develop, but to win now.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that the Chiefs and the Eagles were both winners and reached the Super Bowl because they knew their offensive identity, hired a great coaching staff, and had a front office that made the right personnel decisions before the season, during the season, and after the season. So, John, to best answer your question, which NFL team has the best chance to have a dynasty? So, I think I would say the Chiefs, just like you did, as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are together. The combo is definitely one that has the best chance of becoming a dynasty. It's the Chiefs. Andy Reid has put together a great staff again, especially offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy and defensive coordinator Steve Spags. The front office has an awesome general manager in Brett Veach. Let's not forget ownership and the Hunt family. I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs, are the only team out of 32 that has any chance to become a dynasty in the next 5 years or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Cincinnati Bengals are also interesting, and they are definitely one of the top teams to maybe become a dynasty. The team has Joe Burrow at a rookie minimum still. Zach Taylor is a better head coach than people give him credit for.
Yes, he is.
His staff, especially defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, I probably pronounced that correctly. He's great, by the way. And offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, they are both really good.
Yeah.
Those two are up for head coaching positions. And very interesting. The Bengals do not have a general manager per se. They do have Duke Tobin, who's their director of player personnel and with the front office since 1999. So they don't have a general manager, John, supposedly. I didn't know that until I researched that today. But so there are three additional teams that I would like to throw out there that could become a dynasty in the next 5 to 10 years. Number one, Philadelphia Eagles. Great quarterback. You're not paying him anything. Fantastic weapons on offense, good defense, very good head coach, excellent GM, and there is a weak NFC for the next several years. So number one, that would be the first team in addition to the two others that we mentioned, KC and Cincinnati Bengals. So Philadelphia Eagles is that first one. The second one, the Los Angeles Chargers. They have quarterback Justin Herbert. They're not paying him yet either. They have offensive. They have awesome offensive weapons. They have playmakers on all three levels of the
Yes, they
defense.
do.
Tom Telesco is a talented GM who enters his
Yes, he
11th
is.
season with the team.
Yep.
They hired two or three. He's in the top 2 or 3 offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore.
Yep.
Yeah, Dallas is stupid. they had ranked second in offense. Mike McCarthy is now the new OC.
Good
Please.
boy. Hold on to your hats now.
Yeah, so Kellen Moore is now with Justin Herbert and with the LA Chargers. So that's going to be great for Herbert, I think.
Yeah.
The Chargers do need a new head coach, though. Brandon Staley is not the answer.
No,
the NFL is an offensive league. The Super Bowl has been won lately with teams that had offensive-minded head coaches.
Correct.
Last one, John, the Buffalo Bills.
No.
Yep, they have quarterback Josh Allen. They have Stephon Diggs. They have a really good defense. They do need a new head coach. Sean McDermott isn't the answer. They need to immediately get Josh some help. Get Josh Allen some help on offense. They need a better line and running back or 2 or 3. A new offensive coordinator who doesn't just call plays, but calls plays based upon the team's offensive identity would be nice. Getting a new offensive coordinator. Otherwise, football fans, a big athletic player like Josh Allen is going to end up like just like Cam Newton, hurt and out of the league. So I will say that, but they've got the quarterback, and they do have some good front office people as well.
They do,
but that's a reach. That was toward the bottom of my 5, but that's why I mentioned them last.
I do not see the Bills being a dynasty.
Okay.
Not see it.
But I did want to mention, John, that there is a distinct parallel between the Bills and the Packers, and that they both
not a good one.
Yes, they both have squandered the opportunity to become a dynasty twice in recent memory. And that is coming from a lifelong and old Packers fan who is old. That's me, who lived through the Packers football in the 1980s. So they both had and have had they both had and have future NFL Hall of Fame quarterbacks. The Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen. The Packers had Brett Favre and have Aaron Rodgers. They both rely on their quarterbacks way too much to win them games. They both did not get their respective quarterbacks the talent that they needed to succeed. Both teams used their high-end draft picks primarily on defense instead of on offense. And I will give the Bills some credit when the organization took a big swing and brought in sack specialist Von Miller.
That was a good one.
Wish the Packers organization would stop it with the consistent conservative approach it has taken. If you want to win championships in this league, you better be able to make tough decisions, pivot when you have to, and then take a big swing. Take the big swing. John and I will be talking about some of those tough decisions that the Packers organization will have to make moving forward. Unfortunately, Packers fans will have no choice but to be extremely patient. That includes the Packers winning another Super Bowl and maybe even becoming a dynasty
that could be a
again
while.
Someday. So, John, I didn't know if you had any comments about the 3 teams that I added. It sounded like you weren't too thrilled with the Buffalo Bills, but there is a constant theme that I have with all 3. They all have the quarterback.
Yes, they do.
They are all, 2 of them are on contracts that are really favorable to the team. They have a good front office. They have good ownership. There's a lot of parallels between those 3 teams, and that's why I picked them.
Was excellent.
Josh Allen showed the bag, by the way, just like Mahomes. But Mahomes, again, they're both team-friendly deals. A little bit more team-friendly than Aaron Rodgers was. So, but I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to talk about with that.
No,
I thought the
nothing really to add.
correlation between the Bills and the Packers are eerily,
Man,
similar.
That was a really great, because I'll give you some applause on that one because you are 100% right on that, and that's why you're my friend and my podcast host, co-host.
I
That
appreciate
was
that.
spot on because people don't understand how similar that is. I mean, you're a Bills fan. The 80s, that was you. That was all you. You had, I can name at least 5 Hall of Famers on that 80s team, like Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, uh, Andre Reed, that's 4, I think, and one other one, Steve Tasker, I believe, is a Hall of Famer. I mean, that's 5 guys on one team, and there's probably like 2 or 3 other guys that I'm missing on one team. I mean, and not win a Super Bowl, that's insane. And go to 4 straight, that would never happen again. Mahomes is awesome. He can't even do that. I just don't see that happening. So, yes, that's awesome how similar they are and how crazy it is to have 2. And Josh Allen, you're right. Unless he falls off a cliff, he is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Even if he's not first ballot, he's still going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, in my opinion. So, yes. Excellent. Great job.
Yeah.
So
the Bills are going to have to win a Super Bowl though.
They're going to have to.
know.
Josh Allen will have to
otherwise,
win a Super Bowl to get the monkey off his back, and I don't see that happening with Joe Burrow, Herbert, and Mahomes, and then who knows who else is coming up to challenge them. Who knows?
The Bills are a little they're a little bit like the Vikings. The Vikings have lost 4 Super Bowls as well.
Ding, ding.
And I don't think the Bills have been to more than the 4. So the 4 in a row, I think those are the only 4 that they've been to, right?
That's the only 4 they've been to. That is correct. Okay. That is correct. All right.
So similar to the Vikings as well. In some ways.
Love it.
At least in that way.
Right. Although Brian Flores is still a good hire, and I'm really nervous about that. Anyway, so let's.
I still have Kirk Cousins.
No Costco hot dog. Listen to our podcast, and he's a Costco hot dog, Kirk Cousins, and I'm never going to take that back. So, all right. So, Andy, football's over for the most part, except the draft will be coming up, and there will be some. What do you call it? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. The where all the guys run around in their underwear to see how fast they are. The combine. Yeah.
Yes.
So we will be dropping some mini-sodes. Andy and I will come up with some offense, defensive players. We'll Andy's the stat guy. That's your new nickname, by the way. And you will obviously do great. We'll bring up some stats, and we'll have just some mini episodes. And then April, we'll hit that. But Andy has a thing too. Aaron Rodgers' decision should be soon, if not this week, next week. So, yeah. So, Andy, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
This was not a mini-sode, John, at all.
No.
Sorry.
We will have mini-sodes talk.
Sorry. I am looking forward to the mini-sodes coming up, and I've been accumulating a lot of draft data and draft prospects who could be and hopefully are good fits with the Packers. Hey, John, maybe Packers fans will finally get a decision from Aaron Charles Rodgers. John, this totally reminds me of the bad publicity the decision gave LeBron James and his brand. Make a decision, Aaron.
Yeah.
I did want to say congratulations to the NFL Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs and their fans. And once again, thanks to the greatest sports fans out there, Packers fans.
Packers fans, we love you. Remember to go to Packers Blitz 80 @gmail.com. Go to see us on YouTube and hit subscribe because, we're a small podcast. We're trying to grow. One thing, when the decision is finally made, come on, Aaron, make that decision. We will get on and have a podcast to discuss that. Andy and I, whatever the decision is, sooner than later. So love you, Packer fans. Andy, you have a great week. Love you, buddy. Talk to you soon.
You too, John. Take care. Take care, Packers fans.